We appreciate you going into hospitals, going into grocery stores, doing all of the jobs that are essential all over this country. But I watched Gavin Newsom in his press conference yesterday, and he was talking about the fact that until there's a vaccine, we may not be able to basically go back to work in California. And we've already seen other California politicians basically shoot down the idea of having sporting events in the state in any way. I saw the head of Santa Clara government say that he didn't think that there could be live sports in the state until after Thanksgiving. And I was like, are you kidding me? And yesterday when I saw Gavin Newsom talk, he was talking about not being able to go back to schools in a normal way come August and September, not this year, the next year. And I saw CNN tweet out, hey, people aren't going to be able to have their normal lives until 2022 because there might not be a vaccine until 2022. And I'm sitting around like, oh my God, have you people lost your mind? Look, life requires risk. And everybody out there, I think, would almost to a man and woman agree with me that when we went into lockdown mode, when we shut down this country in mid-March, it's now been a month, basically, and I'm fine with finishing out this month. That will be 6 weeks where we basically turn the economy off. But the argument for why we were doing this was pretty straightforward. It was, we need to avoid overloading the hospitals. Do you remember that argument? We want to make sure that when we peak, we don't overload the hospitals in this country. Well, guess what? We've peaked, and we didn't overload the hospitals in this country. Now I'm starting to see people like Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, say, well, until there's a vaccine, we can't get back to work. No. That is a different argument. If you are so fearful that you don't want to leave your house, your apartment, or your condo, that is your right. Nobody has to work in America. You can stay in your house, apartment, or condo, wherever you live, and you can stay curled up in the fetal position, and you can pull the covers over your head, and you can sit there and stay in that position as long as you want to. That's your right as an American. But that ain't most people. Most people in this country want to go back to work. And if there are politicians stopping us from going back to work and getting our economy rolling again, and if there are politicians that are stopping sports leagues and guys like Dana White from getting back to work, guess what? They need to give the Heisman to those politicians and say, guess what? I'll take my business elsewhere. They need to make those politicians wear it if they are in California. I mean, think about this. Gavin Newsom decided that you guys shouldn't be able to watch the UFC on Saturday. And he and other politicians put the screws on Disney, which is in a really tough spot right now, Disney is, because they want to get Disney World back open. They want to get Disneyland back open. They want to get their movies and television shows back under production. They're based in California. So if California politicians put the screws on them about whether or not this UFC event's going to happen or not, I don't blame Disney for being in the position of having to put their own pressure on Dana White. But I'm a can-do kind of guy. I got to give credit to the state of Florida and Ron DeSantis for doing the exact opposite of what California is doing. They actually went on Twitter and they're trying to recruit Dana White. They say, hey, man, you don't need an island. You can come to Florida and get back to work here. Not saying with huge crowds present, just saying, hey, we'll allow you to produce your show live here in the state of Florida. Put on your fight. It's a can-do attitude as opposed to a can't-do attitude. And what I'm starting to see is not enough people are pushing back on what is a pretty significant shift in the justification for why you don't have sports and why you got to stay in your house. I'm willing to buy in and did buy in and have been telling you for weeks to do this it's a smart play to avoid overloading the hospitals. But we're not overloading the hospitals. In fact, all the experts that told us we were going to overload the hospitals have been completely wrong. They said the state of New York would need 140,000 beds in that state. We brought in that big ship from the Navy, parked it, berthed it right there in New York City, right off Manhattan. We built in the Javits Convention Center a huge brand new hospital. Army Corps of Engineers did. Props to all those guys and girls and how hard they worked. They built that brand new hospital. Basically, that ship and that brand new hospital haven't been needed hardly at all because they said 140,000 hospital beds were going to be needed. Instead, turns out it's around 18,500 or 19,000. That's a big miss. Hey, we're going to need 140,000. It turns out you only need 19,000. That's 1/7, less than 1/7 of the forecast of what they were going to need. It's a good thing. Means less people got the coronavirus, means there's less overall illness. That's a good problem to have. New York has peaked. Better that we're in a shape right there where we could have handled all the overflow. But the result is nowhere is anybody not going to have enough ventilators. Nowhere are we not going to have enough hospital beds. So we have blunted that peak. But remember, blunting the peak does not mean that less people get sick. A lot of people don't understand this. If you look at that graph and it looks kind of like a pyramid if it peaks in an aggressive way, and it looks more like kind of a small hill if it doesn't, mountain versus hill, the same number of people still get sick. It's just spread out over a longer period of time. Well, I'm starting to see people like Governor Newsom in California argue, no. The goal wasn't to blunt hospitals anymore. It's now that until there's a vaccine, we can't go back to work. I ain't playing that game, Governor Newsom. You already shut down the UFC, which I think was a bad move. I watched your press conference and you came out and said, we either need a vaccine or herd immunity. Well, you can't get herd immunity unless the herd is actually circulating. So the logic behind your decision-making is not in play here. And I understand, credit to people all over this country, California and beyond, who made the decision, hey, we're going to listen to our leaders and try to blunt the impact of the coronavirus. But right now, 17 million people have lost their jobs. It's going to be well over 20 million tomorrow morning about this time when the new unemployment numbers come out. The only thing growing exponentially in this country is unemployment. Sports needs to get back. We need sports back to normal, and we need the country back to normal. Yesterday, Donald Trump was talking about it. He's put together his own committee that includes many commissioners and owners to figure out when the appropriate time to return is. Here is what that sounded like yesterday.
In sports, we want to get our sports back. So importantly, these will be some separate calls. Some will be together, by the way, lists, and some will be separate. But we have to get our sports back. I'm tired of watching baseball games that are 14 years old. The NBA, Adam Silver, the Major League Baseball, we miss our baseball. This is baseball season right here. Rob Manfred, thank you very much. NFL, Roger Goodell, thank you, Roger. UFC, Dana White, great Dana White. PGA, Jay Moynihan. LPGA, Michael Wan. USTA, Patrick Galbraith. Major League Soccer, Don Garber. WWE, the great Vince McMahon. NASCAR, Lisa Kennedy. Thank you, Lisa. NHL, Gary Bettman. From the New England Patriots, Bob Kraft. Dallas Cowboys, Jerry Jones. Dallas Mavericks, Mark Cuban.
So that is the group. Credit to Donald Trump for putting together a good roster of different minds when it comes to sports and how to get it back. But let me bring in the Cali crew. When you guys see Ron DeSantis saying, hey, we want things going on in Florida. We want Mickelson and Tiger Woods to potentially play against each other. PGA events, NASCAR events, WWE events. They actually tag Dana White on Twitter and say, bring your UFC event here. And in California, they're trying to shut down everything in the world of sports. Seems like Florida's sending the right message to me, and California is sending the wrong message. Are you guys with me?
We're nervous here because the national lockdown date was until the beginning of May. Here, it's already been extended to May 15th.
Right.
So that scared a lot of people. And a friend of mine, she has 2 daughters. She told me yesterday, she said, I swear to God, if that time of the year where we find out who our kids' new teachers are going to be for the new school year, if I find out it's me again, I'm going to be so pissed. And I was laughing. Already, Californians are on edge. We've been on edge for weeks. Now, to compound things, and this is nothing compared to those who are sick or have lost their jobs, but it's just been a weird situation here because on top of having to stay inside our places, which, let's be honest, we don't have a lot of square footage here in California unless you're super wealthy. We are similar to New York and San Francisco in the way that every square foot costs a fortune. So you're stuck in a little apartment and you can't go outside. And then on top of things, it's been raining here for weeks and weeks. So we got that Seattle effect going on as well, where I find myself listening to alternative rock music like I'm Kurt Cobain's cousin.
Old school.
Yeah, 90s alternative rock bumping from my speakers. It's just been so weird and in a strange situation. And now to find out that my friends and family can't go back to work and that maybe we won't have our NFL teams playing, that's just too much. People
in the state.
Many meltdowns have been going on around us already by certain people that can't handle staying inside. This is a very active state. People love being outdoors. I pray that once April ends and we get into May and past May 15th, I can't see this going into the following month. If we go into June like this in California, people are going to riot here.
Here's what I would say. I think that sports is an interesting window into the way that different governors are handling this situation. Florida, who, by the way, they've ripped Ron DeSantis to shreds in the media, the governor, because he happens to be a Republican, and Gavin Newsom has gotten praised because he happens to be a Democrat. Meanwhile, down in Texas, Greg Abbott has done a better job per capita than any major state in the country, and most of you haven't even heard his name because Texas has done such a good job. They haven't been seeking all the acclaim. But Ron DeSantis, to me, this is a great window. He comes straight out and says, we want your sports, not with, big crowds present, but we'll get the WWE back. We think it's significant to have a sense of normalcy in this country. We'll get the WWE back. We'd like for NASCAR to come down here and do an event. We're open to Phil Mickelson and Tiger Woods doing their event, the PGA in general. And oh, by the way, we're going to hop on Twitter and pitch to Dana White the idea of doing his UFC. Well, he doesn't need an island. He's got Florida. Meanwhile, California is shutting Dana White down. How is that not a perfect metaphor for the way that people are responding to this event? California is, I couldn't believe this. I saw the mayor, was it Garcetti of LA? And he was encouraging people to call and turn people in if he saw groups of people snitch on people because they're out jogging together or because they're playing on a playground with their kids. I'm like, what kind of world are we creating where we are encouraging people to turn in other people who are out on a jogging trail or trying to get down to the beach because they're going stir crazy? It's emblematic of what California is doing compared to Florida, that they right now are saying, no, the UFC, we don't want you to do any events. Otherwise, this event would be going on Saturday. And I believe the Dana Whites of the world should be encouraged. We need to get back to normalcy. We got to get the economy back rolling. We got to get people back working. And when I see all of a sudden this shift from, think about it. It's a significant shift, and a lot of people aren't pointing it out. We need to go lock down so we don't overload the hospitals. Okay, I'm buying in. We haven't overloaded the hospitals. We've peaked. We aren't going to overload the hospitals anywhere. We aren't going to run out of ventilators. We aren't going to run out of hospital beds. We got to go back to work. We can't shelter forever. This country was built on work. It's time to go back to work. And it's time for sports to lead the way back to work. It's time for governors like Ron DeSantis to say, get in here and put your product on. We'll let you do it. You're essential. The exact opposite of what I'm seeing out of California. Dub, are you with me? Is this crazy? I mean, the UFC would be going on this weekend if they had made the decision to go to Florida instead of California.
Yeah, I think you're totally right. I think sports is so unique. I think it can lead the way for more people to feel like things are coming back to normal, and that, I think, will lead to things actually becoming back to normal. So Florida, they're welcome for me to host every single sporting event possible. PGA, NASCAR, WWE, UFC, whatever it takes, because I think sports are so important for people just to feel like things are going in the right direction.
Not only that, to me, the number one goal that every governor should have is letting everyone know that he is open for business or she is open for business. We want you to come here. We want you to bring your business here. We want you to employ our people. We are open for business. Gavin Newsom is saying straight up to sports, we're not open for business. In Santa Clara, the politician said, I don't think the 49ers are going to be able to play here till after Thanksgiving. Okay, well, I'm moving the 49ers if I own that team. I'm not sitting out a season in the NFL because some loser, trying to think of the word I can say without having FCC violations, in Santa Clara, California, is all up in arms about whether or not the 49ers are going to play. If I'm in LA, I got a brand new stadium, SoFi Stadium, and I got two teams, the Chargers and the Rams, and you're telling me I can't play events, not even with crowds present. They're saying you can't even do events without crowds present. That's what they said to the UFC. I'm sorry, California, you are whiffing here. And if I'm waking up in California right now, I'm like, what in the world are my political leaders doing to us? It's crazy. It's absolutely insane. Props to Florida Governor Ron DeSantis for getting things done. Shameful, I think, the way that Gavin Newsom is trying to continue to grab power in California and keep everybody locked up.